So honestly, I think it helps me because again, I'm not in that world, not in that type of I don't even try to portray that I'm in that type of environment, and a lot of that is because if you are around, you are the company you keep. Pretty much is the best way to describe it. If you hang around hood dudes or people that want to, cause or hold on, let me feel better way to say it. If you're around people that just don't know how to act, you look at Jay Z when he was first coming up. He was around a bunch of loudmouths like Dame Dash and things like that. It came to a point where he's like, you know what? I gotta differentiate myself from this part of the crowd versus this part of the crowd. So he went from rocking jerseys and pants sagging whatever to now he's rocking suits whatever. Money completely different. Now we're talking about a billionaire versus a millionaire. So I feel like if you start gravitating towards that type of environment, then you're kind of going to bring, be your own downfall. It's not like Thug wasn't warned about that. Yeah, a lot of people remember the $1 Million Game interview where Wallow kind of just said, "Look, man, if you play in that dirty game, you got to know what the consequences are going to be with it." So, and there's some guys that can be like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I can leave that life alone. Other people, man, that's who they are, and unfortunately, the downfall is gonna come with that.
Daddy, that's classic.
Today we have Delaware's own Jay Meazy sitting down with us today at Classic Content. Thanks for stepping in and having a conversation with us today.
Of course. Appreciate you, bro.
Well, since it's the first time me and you are meeting and we're talking, I want to start at the beginning and really get like an origin story. So,
Yo.
where are you originally from?
So I was born out in Boston. My dad was Air Force, so spent about like 2 years out there. Moved down to Texas, lived there for about like 3, 4 years, and then came up to Delaware and pretty much was born or was raised up this way.
So around like five or six.
Yep.
So that's still relatively young.
Yeah,
So
man.
what part did you move to up here?
So I was in Dover. So grew up in Dover. Then went to University of Delaware for 4 years, and then wound up just staying out in the area. So right now I'm currently in Newark, Delaware.
What was you in school for? What was your major?
Finance.
Finances.
Yep. One thing I'll tell all my supporters know is that I'm all about money. So I've always tried to figure out how I can invest it, grow it. You know, find ways to make more of it.
Well, let's back up a little bit. As far as where did music come in and play a part?
Honestly, so my pops has been around music all his life and kind of just introduced it to me at an early age. So grew up kind of listening to LL Cool J, Cool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane, those type of guys. So music's always been there. It's just something that I've always kind of really been involved with and kind of wanted to get involved in into the business and stuff.
Well, when you were young, was that what some of the activities you used to do? Was writing was one of those things? Like,
Yeah, so one thing that my pops does, he does Martin Luther King speeches. So he does a lot of open mic stuff, writing, poetry and things like that. So I think that's kind of where I got it from. And funny thing is, I didn't even really know that he was doing those things. One day I just came up to him and told him, like, I'm interested and started rapping, whatever. He's like, I used to do that, when I was younger. So I guess it kind of was always instilled in me. And him being around, doing all types of public speaking and things like that, always kind of had been around that stuff. So I always wanted to be on stage, and that's kind of how when I fell in love with rap.
yeah, from seeing it and being around it so much.
hmm
So was it a song that made you fall in love with hip hop, a Pacific era, or artist?
Honestly, probably when I was in high school, I was huge with D Block, Diplomats, and all that type of genre of music. And then I got introduced to Jay Z probably around like my sophomore year. And like when I say introduced to him, is like really sat down and like listened to his music. And that's what really made me want to go out there and start writing and getting into rap myself.
Do you know the song that you listened to that did it?
Uh, It was probably um 97 Friend or Foe.
Okay.
Yep. And just like his wordplay and then the storytelling about it, I just fell in love with it. And it's funny because a lot of people, I'll tell people that song, they're like, what is that? Like, I never heard that Jay-Z song. Like one of those album cuts. But man, for your serious fans that really listen to it, that's something that really kind of just stood out.
How did that equate to like your major, your finance major? You being in finances and then listening to that type of music, did that have any correlation?
Yeah. So I mean, we all know rap is all about living luxury, people getting money, spending it crazy, and all that stuff like that. So it's always been something that I've always been interested in. Everybody wants to live that lavish lifestyle and drive fancy cars, dress the nicest, eat the best or whatever. So that's kind of always one of the things that I've just been, kind of fell in love with, just that lifestyle. So I figured if I can kind of surround myself around money, then I can actually kind of, gravitate towards it and make more of it.
Where did that cross with the music when you decided to like actually establish yourself as a brand? Was that in college?
Yeah, I was definitely in college. So just really, again, my main goal is to see how much money I can, make, in my lifetime, and is be able to just continue to grow that. My main goal with this whole music thing is find a way how to create generational wealth. So my company is called Ace Imperial, and the reason being is because my wife and I, we just had a son, Adam, and nickname is Ace. So it's like Ace Imperial, Imperial meaning like empire. So really, our goal was try to build an empire, and I think one of the things, especially in the Black community, is we don't have enough people that have generational wealth. We always talk about Jewish families and white families or whatever. They come into money. Where I'm like, well, I'm trying to break that family tree and be able to establish that for my son. My pop, especially, he grew up in North Philly, so he came from pretty much nothing, and I never really struggled in life. So he told me like, hey, look, I can teach you how to make thousands, and then for me, he was like making thousands, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to teach you how to make millions, and then I want to continue to keep that with my son, and then continue to keep that in my family.
Well, how much of that is put into your music, like the substance of your music, the subject matter? When you're writing, when you're actually creating, are you thinking about these things when you're creating this music?
Yup. I mean, it's in my name, J Meazy. So it's J dot M. The E is a euro sign, A Z, and the Y is a yen sign. So when anybody sees my name, they're like, all right, well, he's associated with some type of money because of the way you even see that. So a lot of the times, yeah, all my music is kind of surrounded with something about making money. Whether it's how much I made or how much I can make, how much I have, and how I'm looking to try to expand that. Through it. So it's always in my type of music, and it's not something where I'm just like, you look, I got it, and I'm gonna splurge on it. It's kind of like, all right, well, look, this is how I'm going to invest it, or this is how I'm going to really try to better myself with it and better my family with it.
So you're trying to educate at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So besides the music, what else does Ace Imperial do? The brand. What's coming after the music or with the music?
Yeah. So honestly, it's just kind of my wife's hobby is taking pictures, so photography. So we really just want to get into like the entertainment business. That's kind of where we feel like we can make the biggest impact with the company. It was just in that entertainment business. So we got photos, music. One of my other hobbies is sports betting. That's kind of honestly how I fund all my music and my wife's photography and stuff like that. So, I'm just trying to really expand as certain things start popping off. Like sports betting is one of the biggest things that are going on right now. So, I'm trying to get heavily involved with that. So, uh, any type of entertainment that's out there, Ace Imperial wants to be a part of that.
Well, talking about expanding, where would you see these things in the next, like, say, 5 to 10 years? Where do you want to be at?
I want Ace Imperial to be like a household name. Anybody sees Ace Imperial, they know who is behind it, and they know that it's successful. But then also not just being successful, it's going to be setting the bar. So if Ace Imperial is behind it, people are going to know like, oh yeah, like they must be doing
Solidified.
exactly.
Well, with the music, do you got like a structured plan? How many albums would you want to have out?
Yeah. So for 2023, I want to drop at least three. Right now, I'm working on a new tape called "Dollars Under the Influence," and it's pretty much a tape where I wrote whether I was under the influence, getting under the influence, or some type of substance that I was under. Mostly drinking, 'cause I don't really smoke.
Yeah.
And that tape, it'll be out later in January. Um,
Are these tapes albums or EPs? Like as far as the money?
so Dollars Under the Influence, that'll be an EP.
Mhm.
I plan on releasing Easy Money later on this year. I don't have any timetable for that. And then also kind of want to build another EP called it's going to be revolving around like gangster movies and raps. One of the other things I kind of like doing in my spare time is watching movies, and then mostly mafia type of movies and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Well, what else would you grow with that as far as the photography art? Is that going to be a part of the brand to where as though it's visible, or is that more like a hobby that's behind the scenes?
Oh yeah, so definitely be visible. So like I'm trying to keep everything in house. So as far as like my album covers, photo shoots, everything's all in house. So we can keep that money within the family and be able to really expand that part of the business.
Mhm.
But then also to be able to say, all right, well, you look like Meazy stuff is on point. How can I get that photography into it? Incorporated into my music or my business or whatever, things like that.
So it sounds like you're taking your personal hobbies and you're monetizing them and using them as services for other people.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Especially, that when that whole COVID area hit, we saw a lot of people coming out of the woodworks and like, doing fitness or all these type of things, and they started making money of it. And to be honest with you, it's become so saturated that there's so much money around that anybody can touch it. You might not even be really good at whatever you do, whatever, but because you're out there and putting out content and stuff like that, you really be able to reap the benefits of it. So we said, you know what, we got all these hobbies and we sitting on it, and we can be good at it, and we have the drive and the hunger to become better at it. So we're just like, why not be compensated for it?
Well, what strengths do you feel as though you have that's going to help you achieve these goals?
Yeah, well, I feel like my drive is impeccable. Like my work ethic is there. I try to thrive on like nobody can outwork me. Coming from Delaware, we don't have like that big market that like New York City, Philadelphia has. So it's always like whatever I got to do, I got to put out a certain product that kind of stands out, from the others, and that's kind of the main reason why I think like Ace Imperial would be successful, and then Jay Meazy would be successful in the rap game as well.
Well, it sounds like you're really passionate about the brand.
Hmm.
When it comes to the music, what's about the music that's passionate for you, being as though that's going to be one of the vehicles that's driving it?
Yeah, well, just being able to use my voice and to share it. Music is just an international thing that everybody can, take part in. Listen to it. You know, share lyrics on social media platforms. There's always something that you can always share with other people. Whether it be in your own hometown or whether it be like internationally. It's funny how I started putting music out there, and then you see some of your streams coming out of Mexico or Italy, United Kingdom and stuff like that. So music can just be something that can touch people all across the world. So I feel like if I can really master that craft, I'll be able to get my message across.
Building on what you just said about coming from Delaware, whereas though it's a small market, does that give you a lot of encouragement when you do see your streams, people from Mexico and different places letting you know, like, it doesn't just have to be local, like people are listening to you? Does that motivate you?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, in this day and age with the internet, you can get all of your products and information and your material out there. So it's it's kind of what you do. If you want to sit there and just be complacent with putting music out and sending it to your hometown, that's cool. But with all these different platforms, man, if you just be able to take advantage of that and really utilize it, then yeah, you can get your message across, throughout the whole entire world. You might not even be popping in your own hometown, but someone out of in United Kingdom can really say, "Oh, well, I like this guy," and really kind of build off of that, and not to be discouraged because you're not popping in your own city or your own town. That'll come as the work comes with it, and then as your name starts getting out there. So yeah, right.
If I asked you what would be some of your favorite parts of it, what comes to mind?
Honestly, anytime any growth that you see, whether you get 2, 3 followers this particular day, week, or whatever, you might get a couple blogs on you or somebody to comment on your music and be like, man, this music's all right. You know what I mean? And that's really what kind of the ups about it, that I like about the whole process.
And connecting with different people.
Yep, exactly. And people that you never thought that you would be able to be in contact with. You know.
So on the other side, what would be some of the most negative things that you would say?
Scam is probably one of the biggest things, man. Like, you put your music on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff like that. You get people all the time that are like, hey, look, I can do this for you. In this day and age, everything's about the appearance of it. You go on people's page, they got 4 or 5,000 followers or whatever. And then, me, I'm sitting here with like 650. So, I'm happy with the 600, but I'm looking at someone else and I'm like, man, they got 4,000. Well, if you really kind of start digging deep into like their pages, you'll see like their likes are only like 40, 50 on particular likes. So it's like, growing organically is always better than trying to appear to be something that you're not. And that's the hard part of it is people kind of have that appearance thing where it's like, what, he looks better than what he really is. So
yeah,
I think that's probably one of the biggest negatives that you're dealing with.
So if you had a choice, if someone comes and tells you like, look, we're going to put X amount of dollars behind you. It's going to be a machine, and you're going to get all that. You're going to get the streams. It might be some fake followers. Would you still choose to do what you're doing organically? And if so, why?
Organically is just that much better because if you start faking it like you make it, sooner or later that's going to catch up, and people going to be like, you know what, he's not really authentic. Authenticity is probably one of the biggest assets that you can really have, just because if you do something a certain way and people are starting to gravitate towards you, that you're doing something right. Whereas if you put something out and people are like, oh well, I don't really like it, but then it's making it appear like you're doing, you're being successful with it, sooner or later that's going to come and bite you in the ass, and it'd probably be your biggest downfall. So now I think authenticity is the way to go, and that's the way that I really want to be able to get my product out and be successful.
Yeah, it's like cutting through the noise. So let me ask you, with all these like recent deaths, there's been so many deaths in hip hop,
Right.
and MCs or artists are looked at as targets now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the thing that you had that cuts through the noise? What differentiates you from everybody else that's out there? So that makes someone be like, I want to gravitate to him.
Yeah. So again, one of the things I'm trying to do is to, kind of distance myself from what everybody else is doing. So, you listen to music all day, is drugs, uh, drug dealing, and living a lifestyle. What's that? Demon time or some type of gangster lifestyle that just isn't me. I'll be 100% honest with you. I never really was involved in that street life or anything like that. So I'm not even going to sit there and appear like I'm, a part of that. So one thing that you hear in my music, you don't hear a bunch of lies about me talking about killing people or doing this, that, and the third in the drug game, just because I've never done it. So, when people listen to me, they'll be like, oh, he's different. I don't really curse in my music that much as well. So anytime I get somebody that new that listen to my music, they be like, oh, well, this kid is different, and he's not going to be like all these other guys. So I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I wouldn't have to worry about too much with the whole death thing. People that perceive to be something that they're really not. Again, I'll talk about that authenticity thing. If you are trying to portray like a gangster lifestyle or trying to do something that you just really aren't going to be, I feel like that's people's biggest downfall, and that's the main reason why that they're facing those many issues. And also flashing, your fancy lifestyle. Again, I love living a luxurious lifestyle, things like that. But one of the things that you're not going to hear me talk about it to a degree to where I'm bragging like I'm that much better than everybody else, or I'm wearing $1,000 of jewelry and all this designer stuff like that. I'm always trying to like talk about like, yeah, I have money, yeah, I like having money, but there's other ways that you can really show that you have money without actually putting it on and trying to.
Well, in your music, since you're talking about money, how do you thread the line between talking about money and educating people on money? Because there's a lot of people that have just listened to the lifestyle you're talking about, the
Mhm.
fact that you know about money, and they'll just associate you with street stuff. So
Right.
in your music, do you make it known that this is not what you do?
Yep. So in my music, I'll tell people like, 9 to 5 is better than being a 5 to 9. And uh, a lot of my funds, like people know, like, hey, he'll get it either by gambling or he's working a job and just happened to bust his ass because, like I said, I went to college, and got a good job. A lot of my music you'll hear is again double entendres, punchlines, and one of the things that I used to struggle with was trying to fit too many words and too many lines into one particular bar to where it all sounds jumbled up. One of the things I like to do when I have studio time, make the best out of it. So, I'll write a lot, and a lot of times is I'm always rapping to it. So, I spend a lot of time on one practicing the lines and practicing how my message. I might even change up my voice, with certain lines just to make sure that I can put emphasis behind certain things that I want the people to hear. So I would say I spend a lot of time with music, which could be a gift and a curse. A gift as in like I'm gonna make sure that I have a really good product once it's all finished. The curse would be is I do spend too much time to whereas sometimes I don't make as much music as I want to in like a given day, given week or so. So I think a lot of the times it's spent is in, how are people going to be able to, convey a particular message that I'm looking to try to, say, and then how, I'm going to say it. So a lot of times is, I do spend a lot of times with like word structure and the flow of it, as well as, how I'm going to say it.
Yeah, so you don't just go in the booth and just it come out. Do you do punch-ins?
Yeah, I do punch ins. Eventually one day I want to do, straight flow through it and 1 or 2 takes. But I know that comes with time. There's artists that can do that. I just happen to be one of those artists that kind of have that perfection where it's like, look, I want it to sound a certain way, and if it doesn't come out that way, I like to do retakes and especially if that energy is on point, yeah, I'll be able to punch in because I'm able to kind of match that energy that's going on versus going through the whole song over and over again, just because it may come out a different way than what I want it to sound like.
Well, it sounds like that's one of your favorite parts is the process to work.
Yeah.
You would say that that's one of your favorite
Yeah,
processes.
exactly. I like being able to get an instrumental, and for whatever reason, it makes me feel a certain way. So, like with this whole dollars under the influence, I've had certain beats that have come to me and be like, all right, well, this is a time where I remember where I was drunk in a casino, and I'm gonna write that whole process right there. I want people to understand, how I was feeling at the time, what I was doing, what I was saying. And those are the things that really kind of go into some of the songs is, what was going on at the time and to kind of give people like a visual to be like, oh man, like I could understand like where he was at and, and kind of relate.
Well, when you're putting all that work into it, is it a drawback when people don't get that through your music? They listen to it and they don't get that feeling. Is that a negative for you?
Absolutely. So, I'll come in with a certain punchline. Like I've been in the studio a couple times where I have a punchline where I was like, for example, I said, um, these McDonald's flows can't compare when you Chick-fil-A nice. And somebody was like, "Oh, are you saying like you like McDonald's better than Chick-fil-A?" And I was like, "Nah, man, you ain't hear it. I'm saying like rappers that have this McDonald's flow and they can't compare it to my flow, which is Chick-fil-A nice." And then I'll have to break it down. They'd be like, "Oh, snap. That's pretty tough." You know, Nowadays we got things like Genius and things like that to where you can kind of convey your message that you want to speak to. But yeah, when people don't really have the lyrics there, so I try to share my lyrics on all my platforms and on my songs, just because people can kind of go back and read it and say, "Oh, well, that's what he was trying to convey." But yeah, when they don't have that, that patience or want to look at it and see what's going on, then yeah, that's the frustrating part about the whole process.
Well,
I don't really care too much about opinions, to be honest with you, because some people like just certain different genres of music. This day and age, with the mumble rap, just kind of taking over. A lot of people like to listen to that music. You're always gonna have your real true hip hop fans, and so people are always gonna appreciate wordplay, even the ones that kind of really like mumble, the mumble rap and things like that. So, nah, I wouldn't say it really discourages me to a certain degree to where you like, I might lose sales, because I might drop a song where someone says, you know what, I don't really like it, don't really listen to it. I might drop something else that I might not even be like, or I don't even think is going to do that well. And then people wind up saying, "Oh man, I really like that for whatever reason," So I wouldn't say that I would get discouraged about lost sales, because again, when you have a product that kind of stands out to other people, then people are going to eventually start gravitating in and will listen to it. So.
where you put yourself at? Like I'm gonna ask you, where do you fall at as far as the type of music? Okay, you say that you're in this genre.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the genre do you think you at? Who you relate yourself to?
For that East Coast hip hop head that really wants to hear like the wordplay, they really wants to hear you convey a message that they can kind of relate to. Again, this day and age is pill popping and all this type of things. Whereas now it's like, well, I can kind of tell my message to say, look, man, I really like getting money. I like living a certain lavish lifestyle. This is how I like doing it. And this is how I go about, living that way. So I would say like if I were to put myself in a particular genre, it's that East Coast hip hop head that really appreciates the music versus something that they want to dance to or
Back, do you think wordplay will ever come back to be at the top where it used to be at?
absolutely. I mean, like Nas put out what 3 different albums in the past year, so people are still listening. You talk about Jay-Z, what he did with that God did track. Everybody's talking about that. Everybody's eventually going to appreciate the wordplay aspect of hip hop, because that's where it all originated from. So again, when you're going to be authentic and you're going to treat the game the way it was meant to be played, people are going to eventually gravitate back towards it if they're not there right now. Can we listen to all this other new music? Absolutely. I listen to it, but I think when it's all said and done, people are still going to gravitate to the wordplay, the punchlines, and things like that really kind of stood out in the early 2000s.
Yeah, so you think it's a place for all types of hip hop?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm not saying, and then even in my music, I might talk about the rappers that kind of gravitate to that type of music. But I think there's a place for it all, in this industry. But the thing is that again, I try to differentiate my sound and myself from the other people, because a lot of people all sound the same. They all kind of want to make the same product. Maybe add their different spice to it, but when it's all said and done, if it's too watered down, it's going to kill the industry. And that's why people say like hip hop's dead. It's just because there's so many different artists that might sound the same, portraying the same exact message, and because of that, it kind of like kills, a great product.
Well, how important is originality when you can make money? Where does that, you talk about finances, you talk about living a certain lifestyle.
Hmm.
So where does originality come into play when it comes up against that? Because it's going to be a time when you're going to have to sacrifice your artistry to make money. So how far are you willing to go? What are you not willing to do to make money?
So I'm about to say that question could be answered a couple ways. Like, do you absolutely have to sacrifice your artistry in order to make money? Not necessarily, because if you come out with a product that's so good and it stands out so much from other products, people are going to eventually gravitate towards it. It may not be, your $1 million deals. It may be your couple $100,000 deals. I mean, you take for instance like some of these songs that were made back in the 70s, 80s. Like for instance, the Running Up the Hill with Stranger Things. A lot of people don't realize that song didn't do numbers at all when she first dropped it. Here we are 40, 50 years later, and she's getting paid crazy money for something that she put out, several years back. So I wouldn't say that you necessarily have to sacrifice your artistry in order to really, gain money. Eventually it's going to be there, and that kind of falls into that whole self gratification or instant gratification. Let's just say, $1 here today might not be the same as $1 here tomorrow. You might make $5 today, whereas in 2 years from now you can make 100,000. It all kind of depends on what the music is at the time, what people need, and what that product what that product means to somebody, now versus in the future.
With all these, with the stigma on artists now being targets, do you think that what's going on now with the Tory Lanez incident, with the Young Money RICO case, I think it's been like 2 more RICO cases since then. Do you think that helps you or hurts you musically, you pursuing this?
So honestly, I think it helps me because again, I'm not in that world, not in that type of I don't even try to portray that I'm in that type of environment, and a lot of that is because if you are around, you are the company you keep. Pretty much is the best way to describe it. If you hang around hood dudes or people that want to, cause or hold on, let me figure a better way to say it. If you're around people that just don't know how to act, you look at Jay-Z when he was first coming up. He was around a bunch of loudmouths like Dame Dash and things like that. It came to a point where he's like, you know what, I gotta differentiate myself from this part of the crowd versus this part of the crowd. So he went from rocking jerseys and pants sagging whatever to now he's rocking suits whatever. Money is completely different. Now we're talking about a billionaire versus a millionaire. So I feel like if you start gravitating towards that type of environment, then you're kind of going to be your own downfall. It's not like Thug wasn't warned about that. A lot of people remember the $1 Million Game interview where Wallow kind of just said, "Look, man, if you play in that dirty game, you got to know what the consequences are going to be with it." Mm-hmm. So and there's certain guys that can be like, you know what, yeah, you're right. I can leave that life alone. Other people, man, that's who they are. And unfortunately, the downfall is going to come with that.
Well, you said that you got 3 projects you want to drop this year.
Yep.
What's going to be the first one?
So Dollars Under the Influence will be the first EP that I'm going to drop.
And when we can look for that, like you got a month?
Yep. So end of this month, end of January, it'll be streaming on all platforms. It's about to be a 6 to 8 project or 68 song project. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think a lot of people will gravitate towards it because it's just something different. That you're used to hearing.
And then you got the other 2 that's going to come out after that.
Other 2 coming out, it's got Easy Money, and then it's a project that I'm kind of just in the works with thinking about is called just Gangster Movies and Raps. Again, just kind of just falls into my interest of gangster movies and how I was feeling at the time when I was watching a certain movie or feeling that. So
Well, where you gonna be dropping this stuff at? What distribution deal you going with?
it'll be through Ditto, and it's gonna be through my label, Ace Imperial Entertainment.
Well, tell everybody the other social media places they can find you at.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, j.meazy. It's just j.meazy. Twitter, jmeazy27. You can find my stuff right now on Spotify and Apple Music, j.m. The E is a euro sign, A, Z, and then a Y is a yen sign. So yeah, you can find my stuff out now. Then I'm on YouTube as well. So I have about like 4 videos on YouTube. But I think 2023, man, is just going to be the year where you're going to just start seeing a lot more content and a lot more products that are just coming out from Ace Imperial, and just really finding a way to stand out.
Well, thank you for sitting down with me. I really hope you the best. I encourage everybody to go there, check you out, and enjoy your music. And I can't wait to talk to you again.
Yeah, man. And also too, I got a website, aceimperial.com. So
definitely.
If you don't necessarily have to go out and look through, like if you don't have Spotify, you don't have your own YouTube page, you can go on my site. I got everything right then and there. I'm working with Creative Diversified, with being able to really put my stuff out. Right now I'm just focused on being an artist, but working with Red Room Music, those guys are really starting to help me push understand the business part of that of the word. Yeah, and then also too, I have my own clothing line and items like that. So you'll have merch coming out later on this year as well. So,
well, thanks for sitting down talking to us, and I can't wait to do it again.
Appreciate you, bro.
All right, that's it.
Daddy, that's classic.